Hey there, I'm Colin Weston with the Mod Golf Podcast. Thanks for joining us. Today, my guest is Bryan Crawford, who is the tournament director for the RBC Canadian Open. And there he is. Gee, spoiler alert already. So you've seen him already. So even before I really introduce him here. So you know what? Now that we've already seen him, I'm gonna stop talking. I'm just gonna bring him on here and say, hey Bryan, what's going on? How you doing? So there we go. Bryan, good to see you again. We just finished up our long form audio conversation for the Mod Golf Podcast. So I do encourage all of our viewers here to consider being a listener. So down below, we'll include the link for the conversation we had there, where Bryan and I really dug into kind of innovation and the culture of that at Golf Canada and reimagining the RBC Canadian Open after 2 years of a brutal pandemic that we're still kind of in. We're not quite through it yet. And then how they're reimagining themselves for 2022. So want to touch on that, of course, Bryan, again, but I want to start here because I meant to ask this kind of high level overarching question at the beginning. So if some of our listeners are out there and thinking Golf Canada, what is that? What do you do? We have a lot of American listeners and may think, are you like the USGA of Canada? So perhaps we can start here with you telling us the mission statement and the why and what you do and why you do it at Golf Canada.
Essentially, Golf Canada is the governing body for golf in Canada. So yes, just like the USGA, just like the RNA. And we're a national sport federation. And we have a number of them in Canada. Hockey Canada, Canada Basketball, Soccer Canada, so on and so forth, are all the sport governing bodies for their sports in the country. So they're recognized by the government of Canada, which has a Ministry of Sport, members of the COC, the Canadian Olympic Committee, and so forth. So, our mission essentially is to drive the sport of golf in Canada and to make it more accessible and available and, support the growth and development of the sport. So we, as an organization, we're probably, in around 70 plus staff strong, headquartered in Oakville, Ontario at Glen Abbey Golf Course. We have a number of different kind of divisions and departments. The one that I work in is our professional championships, and that includes the RBC Canadian Open and the CP Women's Open. The organization also has, of course, golf development component that includes our First Tee program, which is actually brand new. First Tee Canada replaced our formerly Future Links program. So youth golf development in the country, membership of which includes our golf course members. There's about 2,300 golf courses in Canada, and the vast majority are, members of Golf Canada and supporting the industry in that way. We have public player members who, manage handicaps and those sorts of things that are members of Golf Canada. So we support all of those people as well through the membership program. Things like insurance and handicapping and those sorts of things. We do course rating and all those sorts of pieces as well as part of that membership. We manage one of the largest Hall of Fames and heritage in golf in the world. And then we also have a foundation, Golf Canada Foundation, that helps raise support for the industry to help all of those initiatives, to help. We have a high performance department that runs, the development of our young up and coming golfers and our young pros. So all of those players that you're seeing on the PGA Tour and the LPGA Tour that have come up through our Golf Canada high performance system. So a really, multifaceted organization that does a whole variety of different things. I didn't even mention, all of our amateur championships. I think we have 30 some odd amateur championships that happen throughout the year, from the men's and women's amateur championships to next gen competitions and so forth. So a pretty big organization with a lot going on, and the RBC Canadian Open is probably certainly the most visible of all of that activity, being really one of the largest properties of everything that we do.
Yeah, lots of moving parts there, but they're all interconnected, and part of that glue that I love that you are so authentic about and intentional about, and really put your effort where your mouth is in this case, and that is in that diversity and inclusion piece. And I know it's whether it's like sustainability or some other, or even innovation, those are buzzwords and terms that people throw around rather loosely, but that is really something, that whole equity platform in golf, to make it welcoming and inviting for everyone through your programs and partnerships. You talked about what you're doing now with the first tee. And I realize you now have a new partnership with Youth on Course. We've had Adam Hike, who's the CEO of Youth on Course, on the podcast before. So I love the fact that you're not trying to create everything yourself, trying to boil the ocean, as we say in the entrepreneurship space, but you are then finding these partnerships to then propel each of you or all of you forward together to move forward. So can you talk about that, how that grow the game initiative to make the game accessible and friendly and welcoming to whether it's youth, women, girls, people of color, LGBTQ community, how all that is kind of crystallized and shows itself, manifests itself in the work that you do through fan experience at the RBC Canadian Open, and what you have planned for 2022 in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely. So certainly, complex question, and also one that, I'm only so kind of in the right position to answer, given, my role and focus, and that we have, a ton of tremendously talented people that work in those areas on a day-to-day basis. But, essentially at the heart of it is, golf is a sport that really is, can be accessible to everyone, that is, but has traditionally been a sport that is not necessarily been accessible to everyone. And that's a barrier that, our sport and industry as a whole has been trying to overcome. And has certainly work that was going on, previously. We had a program called Future Links that was really about providing access, golf in schools program that, put golf into, phys ed programs and those sorts of things. And just last year, we announced the launch of First Tee Canada, which many people are familiar with. The First Tee program that was a USGA RNA, initiative, and has existed for several years. So to launch that in Canada and bring that brand and that program here is a really fantastic initiative that will help grow the game in so many different areas. It has been a commitment, I think of our administration and new boards from kind of the arrival of Lawrence Applebaum a few years ago as CEO, and the new boards and stuff to address those sorts of challenges for our industry. Diversity, equity, inclusion, safe sport. We actually have a brand new director of diversity, equity, inclusion, and safe sport, Laura Wilson, and that'll be her primary job to lead our activities across our entire organization and across our entire industry in Canada. And we try to, from my perspective then, and kind of where I plug into this big machine, is with the professional championships, and they really are kind of a calling point, a central point for the golf industry and golf in Canada as our, largest property or, major professional event, and the CP Women's Open as well, where we bring together the industry and all the different components of it. And we have all of these different areas of membership and First Tee and all these sorts of pieces that plug in different ways and use the platform of the RBC Canadian Open to generate awareness, to, of course, generate revenue to support all of those activities. And that's certainly a big part of what the RBC Canadian Open does, bring attention to the sport of golf in general, and having a television audience that is 1 billion households strong around the world is pretty significant when it comes to getting eyeballs on what it is that you're doing and what it is that you're doing with your partners like RBC. It's an interesting place in that what golf has maybe traditionally been thought of, and what it can be and what it is for people, and kind of the way that there are public courses and private courses and municipal courses and programs. And the thing that is, I think, especially unique about golf is that it is truly a sport for life. Like, there really isn't another sport that's even that close. Lots of people play, pickup hockey, but they don't play into their 90s, and or soccer or some other sport, or running. But there are, 90-year-olds that are out there on the golf course, every week, a day, in some cases, playing the sport. And that is, inherently, I think, unique in the sports landscape in the world, and certainly in Canada. So that's probably a position of strength that, golf wants to build upon and allow people to be part of it from, childhood to obviously their elder years.
Yeah, golf is very unique in that respect. And as we know, one of the reasons of the boom for tee sheets being filled all across North America and the world over the last 2 years is the fact it's built for social distancing. And there's been
Yeah.
all kinds of growth opportunities. But it's also interesting, there's been this tension on golf courses because of the F&B, banquets, weddings, all of that revenue, which is a massive part of their business model, has been completely removed. So, have you noticed that with the golf course owners and operators that there's that tension that even bumping up prices because of supply and demand and not making you think, well, it's a great opportunity for younger people or all non-golfers, refusing golfers or soon to be golfers to try it for the first time. They don't necessarily have the ability to give those discounted rounds because for that reason it's like we gotta make as much revenue as we have here. Have you found that? I know that's not really your kind of in your
Sure.
wheelhouse with what you do with the tournament director, but in other conversations you've had at Golf Canada, have you found that to be a bit problematic that more people want to play, but it's a supply and demand issue that new people to the game can't necessarily have access?
Yeah, and, I mean, certainly the golf industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and it's in Canada, and it's a business in Canada, of course. And so, golf courses that are private or privately. When I say private, I mean like privately owned that aren't in a municipal golf course, are being run to make money. And in some cases, they're owned by a private membership. In some cases, they're owned by private individuals or large organizations like Club Link or Golf North or something like that. And they obviously are business first. And while golf and rounds and filling the tee sheets is a primary source of their business, banquets and the F&B side is a big part for a lot of golf courses. Some that's not a big part of their business model, but many it is definitely a big part, whether it's weddings or conferences or other sorts of functions. I mean, myself personally got married on a golf course and had our wedding and reception at a golf course. So so that's a big hardship for sure for that industry, as the whole food and beverage industry has faced, from restaurants to convention centers. But out of that has been a wildly successful time period when it comes to people playing golf. And for private clubs, new members joining clubs, and seeing wait lists now having to be in place for those private clubs, to seeing the public courses full, to seeing municipal courses full, which are municipal courses are such an important part of the golf pathway for so many people that those are listening that have kids in their kind of early teens or even just a little younger, they go drop off for the whole day at a golf course and they play 36 holes and
Yeah.
so and to the point of golf is, yeah, there's a wide spectrum. You can pay several $100s to play around at some of the most prestigious clubs, of which there are many very prestigious public clubs in our country that anyone can go play, to $20 to play a twilight round. And I'll tell you what, I've been fortunate to play some of our most exclusive and some of our best golf courses in the country, and I've played some of the ones that are in your backyard around the corner, and I have just as much fun playing those, probably more in some
Yeah.
way. They're great for my kids when we play together, and so that's the thing. There is also a wide variety of what's available to people, from all different backgrounds and all different places. And we're lucky in Canada that we per capita have more golf courses than anywhere in the world, and that's pretty special. And it's pretty neat to see what has happened in the last 2 years and how people have gravitated to the game. That it is inherently an individual and kind of an isolation, a sport that you play in isolation, but at the same time is so collegial in that you go with a foursome, you're talking, you're enjoying, you're spending time together, you're outdoors. It's got all those components that really make it, there's quite a dichotomy in what the sport is at its soul, as a game that you're playing as an individual, and then what it is from a community perspective. And the golf course in so many communities is really a focal point of the community, through the summer and the golf season months. So
Yeah, yeah, and I love the fact you touched on that. A golf experience, I like to say, golf isn't like a switch on and off, 18 holes or it's not golf. And for years, it's only been the last couple of years, as you know, Brian, that the old guard with golf would consider, well, it's if I can't post a handicap for 18 holes, it's not real golf. And I know even on the Golf Canada app, if I only play 9 holes, I can record that. And I play a lot of pitch and putt early mornings, and I intentionally take out people that haven't even picked up a golf club before, and we'll go play pitch and putt. It only takes, an hour and a half. The holes are between 70 and 110 yards, so that intimidation factor, all the pain points and barriers that prevent people from getting involved in the game. And I consider that's golf. I know you come from the basketball background also professionally with Canada basketball. I played basketball competitively when I was younger, and I still go out and play 3-on-3 or play 1-on-1 or even just play 21 with free throws. I don't make excuses and say that's something else or it's not basketball. That's basketball. I don't have to be playing 48 minutes in the NBA against LeBron to say it's basketball or make excuses. It just like with golf, it counts as a golf experience. And I'm really happy to hear that you're embracing that also. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, and I'm not from the golf world, right? I'm not a golf purist in those ways. We certainly, and I certainly needed to learn and figure out the proper balance between, the history and heritage and what is uniquely sacred about the game. And then what also needs to be, reimagined and accepted. And you mentioned basketball. That's a great example that basketball exists in so many different ways, from someone just shooting free throws on a court in their neighborhood park to 3x3 basketball made its Olympic debut.
I was going to mention that. It was amazing.
Yeah, and it was a big part of I was involved in during my time at Canada Basketball. And it is all of those different things. And a lot of other sports are that way. There are different things that make, hockey, 3-on-3, 4-on-4, 5-on-5, street hockey, your backyard rink. Like there's all these different things. And so golf definitely, from my perspective, and considering myself still a bit of an outsider view of it, that, yeah, we have to be accepting of those things because the sports tastes change. Here in North America, we have access to all of the sports and they are all available and popular in different ways that maybe they aren't in some other places in the world. The variety isn't there that it is here. And there's a lot of different options for people. And certainly kind of our change and, social digital is changing that. But, music is far more acceptable, on the golf course. Like I probably played as many rounds this year with, a speaker as I have without. And, those sorts of things that people, playing 9 holes. Yeah, I played 9 holes a dozen times this year. It's, so it is accepted that, the top golf experience, we don't have that as much here in Canada yet, but in the United States, that's golf. And that's a way that people want to engage with the sport. And I think that as a whole, our industry and those in it, it's recognized that there's a place for all of it. There's a place for the true golf purists that needs to play 18, that needs to score their round, that has to have, a handicap, that it is, that they're playing by the rules of the game. But I'm also someone who goes out there, if you want to improve your lie, go for it. Yeah. The vast majority of people, are the way that they play golf, like have fun, hit it until you're happy kind of perspective, like that's what it is for most of us. We're not going on tour anytime soon, right?
Yeah.
And there's very few of us that are winning the club championship. So, but there's a place for those, and there's a place for the people that, want to go out and have a good time, with their buddies and enjoy it. And that certain golf courses are for some, and certain golf courses are for other. And I think that, I've certainly seen, I think that there's the people have accepted that is the case, and that you just have to, find the right place to fit in. If you think about it, heck, you can even bring cell phones on to a PGA Tour event not too long ago. And we now encourage, social engagements. We Golf Canada has an app, and we're developing a fan experience app for the Open, and the PGA Tour has a fan experience app. And like, it is part of sports now, and it is certainly part of the PGA Tour. So I think there's been a maturation and a maturity and growth in the industry, just in the short time I've been around, and certainly kind of looking at it from the outside in and trying to see where it's come from and where it's going.
Nice. So to finish up here, I wanted to kind of bring it back into your lane of the RBC Canadian Open and entrepreneurship, as we talked about earlier, the being entrepreneurs inside of an organization. A lot of our viewers and our listeners, whether they're in the golf industry or not, they're in the innovation, tech, entrepreneurship space. Some of them are considering entrepreneurship. They've got an idea, or they're within an organization that may be a bit conservative or maybe a little bit behind as far as embracing innovation. Can you give us a couple of kind of insights here of, I don't know if you're going to call it the recipe, but the way that you approach with the culture to embrace innovation at Golf Canada, to give people the opportunity to try new things and come forward and not feel intimidated, and removing that we call the F word, in this case, failure, that it's more of an experiment, or at least look at something as almost a startup culture to try something new if the business case is there within the organization. So perhaps with your experience also at Golf Canada and elsewhere, as far as how established organizations can embrace a culture of innovation.
Yeah, I mean, and I think like I said, I'll try to stay in my lane of the event, and I spend 365 days a year thinking about the event, and like I said, that's my role and my priority, and it's a major event and a huge undertaking, so it kind of has to be that way. But within with the RBC CO specifically, I came in, like I said, from outside the golf space, and I think that brought with it a wide lens, like willingness to have a wide lens. And sometimes in any industry, if you're in it kind of too long, you can kind of be narrowed to just see things from within the lens of what's in that industry. And from being kind of a bit of a golf outsider, it served me very well, and ultimately it served, I think, our event and Golf Canada well. That to look at, golf inherently has barriers as a spectator sport and as an event. And we talked about this before, that a stadium sport, football or baseball or hockey, you get your ticket, you got your seat, you go sit down, you know how to engage with the event. It's very, very different, with golf. How do you engage with the event? And that's a barrier for some people, maybe coming out and experiencing the tournament for the first time and really knowing what it's about. And so, having that lens, I think, allowed us to start to think about, how do you reach out to people from outside of your kind of immediate circle, the golf purists, the golf, hardcore golf fan. And that's the biggest challenge for anyone in any industry, is how to reach outside that core group. And we started to think about, the lens of how do you make it easier to experience the event, everything from the type of ticket to the wayfinding on site, to those sort of things. And then beyond that is the other components that draw people in. And for us in 2019, it was music, it was food festival, it was youth initiatives, school field trips, like exposing people to what the actual golf tournament is, that may have never been exposed to it, and not realize that this is a changing modes to think about it as a sport and entertainment event instead of just a golf tournament. And so I think we all think about it as a sport and entertainment property now, not just necessarily a golf tournament. Golf is the anchor, of course, it is the focal point, but it's all those other things that opens the door and allows us to kind of innovate. In the PGA Tour as an industry has been doing that, and you see that at other tournaments and other things that tournaments are doing and adding to the event, that it's it's a week-long festival and not a not a 4-day golf tournament. So I think the willingness that everybody is obviously willing to want to grow and expand and not be complacent with kind of where you've been, is critical to being able to be successful and in changing and trying new things. Having an understanding that if you fail or something doesn't work, the worst case is you just go back to what you're doing before.
Yeah.
And if you have really strong, strategic planning and data-driven decisions and well thought out objectives and goals and strategies and tactics, that you are more likely to be successful than you are to not. Now, all those things that we added in 2019 that had set us up for a record-setting year. There was a little bit of luck involved, but it was all really strategically thought out, and it was all really specific in what we were trying to do. And so those things working out, we had some things are luck. We can't control the weather. We can't control that, the biggest name we recruited won the tournament, or that, the sorts of things. But we had a concert series. We planned it meticulously. We thought very specifically about who the artists would be and what demographics they'd appeal to. We, added a food initiative that we were once again very specific about, and how that reaches out, and how all of these things kind of tie together. So, that's how I think, just that willingness to consistently challenge yourself to think about what's, what you're doing and where you're going, and the willingness to look at what everyone else is doing. And the best ideas are stolen ideas. You borrow them from all the, and there's, no original idea, they say, right? So like, and golf, I think that, RBC Canadian Open prior to my arrival for sure did something really kind of risky. And we have this activation called the rink. And for those that have been to the event or seen the event, we theme a par three during the RBC Canadian Open around hockey. Rink boards, Zamboni, marshals with referee jerseys, goalie helmets for the tee boxes. Like, it is themed completely around hockey, and it was a bit of a way. It was a 1 year thing to celebrate Canada's, birthday, and it was really successful. And we carried it on, and then we saw how we could grow it, and it kind of becomes like our signature hole. As we move around every year, we don't necessarily have that signature hole. It kind of becomes a bit of our building of our waste management 17th hole product, and that was a really risky, innovative thing to do. And, within 3 years, it's named the element of the year on tour, and it is driving, half of our hospitality. And it is one of the most important parts of our golf tournament. And the people that were willing to actually try that out and then stick with it, like the people who were willing to put a 15,000 person concert on the golf course, saw the value of what taking a risk could provide, and those have reaped benefits for us. So I hope that, we continue to do that and continue to improve what it is that we have to offer.
Oh, there's some great nuggets of wisdom that you provided there for entrepreneurs. Is that, yeah, don't try to reinvent the wheel. Remember, first year architecture school for me back in the day in Toronto, I had a first year professor when we're all agonizing over, creating something that's never been done before. And all he said to us, he looked us in the eyes and said, "The good ones borrow and the great ones steal."
Yeah. Why not just do something that's been done before, but do it better? Or just
absolutely. And that's not what innovation is. It's building on the shoulders of what's been done before. And you talked about this too. So for all people out there in entrepreneurship and looking at innovative ways to reimagine or add new value or unlock new customers and whatever it is that you do, is that, yes, observe, listen, and empathize, right? See what works, see what people want, and see what works. And if it doesn't work, do it at a smaller scale, kind of like a minimum viable product. And then if it doesn't work, then you know what, at least when you failed, it doesn't, the risk has been reduced. And then if it does work, like a lot of these things you talked about, the next year you make it bigger and bigger and bigger and add more things and try different things and reduce the things that don't work as much and amplify the ones that do. And that's how you just keep on going here. You refine as you go. So don't think you have to have it all sorted out at the beginning, and just go from there. So, hey, I can keep talking to you forever here, but I do know you need to go. So before we go, talking about innovation and kind of reimagining things that you're doing, rather than just sitting on your hands for 2020 and 2021 of not having an RBC Canadian Open championship, you're with your partners doing some other things. And I believe in the next couple of weeks here in 3 cities in Canada with one of your sponsor partners, and that is Audi, that you're doing an awesome event. So quickly tell us about that, Brian.
Yeah, absolutely. There's we are really excited to work on this project, and it's really in that theme of new golf that we just finished talking all about. And it's the Audi night golf experience, very much in the mold of Top Golf. That we're running some contests for Golf Canada members that will get an opportunity to take part in these events. We're doing one in Vancouver, one in Toronto, one in Montreal in the evening at some great clubs, Lambton Golf Country Club in Toronto, La Mirage in just outside Montreal in Terrebonne, and Point Grey in Vancouver. And these contest winners will get a chance to take part in essentially a drive, chip, and putt competition that'll lead to closest to the pin, and lights and DJs and MCs and food and beverage and all these sorts of things with Audi, and celebrating kind of their they are a very progressive company, and they've recently released their Audi e-tron GT, a very exciting fully electric sports car, which is spectacular, of course. Doing this and doing it in the new golf mode, and doing something that is fun and different and not necessarily what traditional golf has necessarily been. And so we'll be out in Vancouver to run the first of those that we'll be running through the month of September to kind of bring to a conclusion the end of the summer. And it's great to be kind of in a place where we can, be running an actual event again. And we're, the people that I work with and my team are all, kind of event junkies, and you get a real high off of running events. So getting to do these is great. And they should be really, really cool. And certainly people get a chance to see, see it on social and so forth. And if they're a Golf Canada member, they'll get a chance to sign up to that contest to be included and participate. A lot of great prizes and all that sort of stuff. It's going to be pretty fun.
Nice. Well, I am very honored the fact that you and the team have invited me to participate in the Vancouver one. So I will see you there in a week or so. And we, of course, with the Mod Golf podcast, will be promoting that both before, during, and after, all the good things you have going on there. And who knows, maybe the following year, maybe we'll, depends on how many people can go. I know you got about 100 people at each one of those events in the 3 cities. Who knows, maybe we'll open it up for one lucky Mod Golf podcast listener or viewer to perhaps be in the contest and win a chance to tee it up against you and I to see if and we can battle it out to see how it goes. So hey, Brian, why don't we leave it at that? Thank you again for spending the time and telling us all the good things you got going on at Golf Canada, how you're reimagining the RBC Canadian Open. I'm super excited about that, and excited about getting together with you in person at the Audi Night Golf event in a week or so time. So hey, Bryan Crawford, the tournament director of the RBC Canadian Open with Golf Canada. Brian, good to see you again, and thanks for joining me on the Mod Golf podcast.
You too, Colin. Thanks so much. It's been a lot of fun.